So let's talk about what we just heard there. He packed a lot of information into that report, starting, Joe, with something that I'm still trying to sort out myself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people who are supporting Trump's policy here are saying this is a big first bet and ask on a negotiation. Then you have Peter Navarro saying, no, it's not a negotiation. Do you have a sense of which way this is going? Because it feels like there are two different camps, even within the administration, one exemplified by Elon Musk here, the other by Peter Navarro.
We saw throughout the campaign that Susie Wiles had everybody on the same page, and communications were very crisp. We didn't see a lot of contradiction or a lot of palace intrigue. Now we're seeing Elon Musk saying one thing and on X in a very provocative way, and then Peter Navarro on national television saying the other. So, yeah, I would think that the White House has to get their communications in order because we're hearing two different things. You made the point yesterday. Is this about bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff revenue, or is it a negotiation ploy to bring tariffs down to zero? It can't be both, to your point. I think this week we got to see two things. We have to see movement on the tax bill because Donald Trump wants the largest tax decrease in history. And if we get that, that offsets maybe the pain from the tariffs. But
and the Senate, by the way, did advance the ball on Friday night on that exact point.
Exactly, the 5-yard line, I think we called it now at this point. And then I think on these tariff bills, I think, and we heard during Lucas's report that it may not take weeks, but I want to hear the framework of some agreements with some countries like Vietnam, like Israel, like the United Kingdom, showing the American people this is going the way we want to. If it's still as clear as mud, then the markets will still see that as uncertainty, and then we're going to see thousands of points more dropped in the stock market. So I think communications are very key, especially this week, Guy.
Yeah, communications, explaining what the goal is, right? What the actual policy is intended to achieve, Katie, and then movement toward that goal, saying here's what we've so far accomplished.
Yeah, so going back to Wednesday, when this big announcement was made in the Rose Garden, I can only go back to what the president, the commander-in-chief, has been saying about this, despite maybe this contradictory communication from some of his aides. He said it's very simple. If you tariff us, we will tariff you at the same rate, and we will talk about the rest later. But we want an equal playing field to get back to actual fair trade and free trade, not America footing the bill for these other countries. Essentially, the last 30, 40 years, the attitude has been, well, America's very successful, and therefore they somehow owe the rest of the world some type of tax because they can afford it. This is a president who no longer believes in that. And the president is also using the fact that the United States of America is the largest economy in the world. And he knows that these 50-plus countries that are calling him and asking for negotiations, they not just want access to the U.S. market, but it is essential to the future of their own economies. So he is holding the cards, as he would say, and asking these countries to come to the table. And I think that there are some negotiations he's willing to have, given what he said directly from his own mouth in the Rose Garden last week.
And Molly, I want to let you react to any of this, but one little nugget that was also buried there by Lucas in that report, I think it was really comprehensive. He mentioned on Capitol Hill a growing number of Republicans saying, actually, we support a bill that would give us some say over the tariffs, at least to review. Is the legislative branch maybe reasserting itself a little bit here on this front, possibly?
Yeah, it's interesting because the protesters across America that we saw on Saturday, they had a message that was kind of all over the place, the hands off everything. But among that, they still had that Trump is a threat to democracy message that they had out there. And part of that was congressional control, that he's going around Congress with all of these efforts that he's making. It was interesting to see Elon Musk talking the way he was about Europe, because we are expecting Keir Starmer to come out this week and talk about globalization. And that has been big headlines. And there's a coalition of for instance, the New York Times opinion, globalization is collapsing. Brace yourselves. The Washington Post, Trump may have just ended globalization as we know it. That may be one of the themes of the week. And the other theme of the week, of course, will be watching the market.
You mentioned some of the protests yesterday.
Yeah.
We talked about it here, and we're going to talk about it again because there's a few updates. Other meltdowns continuing, a second straight weekend of anti-MAGA, anti-Trump protests. But, surprise, some of the demonstrators involved don't really seem to even know what they're so angry about. Watch this.
What are you here protesting?
All of it. I mean, there's nothing I agree with. We're here standing for freedom.
I'd like to impeach Donald Trump.
Why?
Well, there's a myriad of reasons.
There's just something about Charlie Hurt asking those questions that brings me so much joy.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.